recording this all over again. So I gotta start all over from the beginning, all over again. Apparently the last video had this all messed up. And a lot of static was there, so I gotta do this all over again. But the two animes for July of 2022, after going over 10 animes that were released in July, and after finding out of those 10, four or five of those animes were actually good, but only really, if I think about it, only four of those animes were the actually good ones. And then I tried to knock it down into the smallest number I could think of with regards to anime. Which one do I think is the best, and which one is the runner-up to be the best out of those four? And I came across two. And those two are Teppen, the anime you see of this character right here, and the other is Yurei Deco, which is an anime you see right here. And the screen will be large for it'll be large for Teppen, but it'll be smaller for Yurei Deco because the recording video I was watching Yurei Deco on was a smaller screen, and the recording video I was watching Teppen on was my actual screen that I watch on my television. So this was done from a phone. Yurei Deco was done from a phone, and Teppen was done from my actually television, or my HD. But the moment I screen cap it and then I upload it to my computer, it looks kind of fuzzy because you're actually clicking something directly from your video that you paid for the animation. So yeah, but these videos are just for fun anyway, so I'm not actually supporting anything or anyone. I'm just talking about something. So I don't really give a damn if you get claimed, because this is just about talking about something I like. That's all there is to it. Now, Teppen and Yurei Deco are great because they can both fall into the realm of, you can turn both these anime into different industries. Anime can become a drama, this anime can become political, this anime can become psychological, this anime can become family oriented, this anime can become anything it wants to be if the comedy part of Teppen doesn't work, or if the science fiction part of Yurei Deco doesn't work. There are many different ways for these animes to go, and especially for Yurei Deco, you can make a documentary off of what Yurei Deco is trying to sell towards its viewing audience, and you could also make a documentary of what the industry of entertainment is like for any type of entertainer, singer, so on and so forth, but specifically for comedians. So this is something that's not known a lot in anime, comedic anime. We see mostly action anime, you see mostly singing anime, you see mostly sports anime, you see mostly drama or horror anime. Very rarely you actually, and sometimes you see romance anime, but very rarely would you see comedy anime. And that's why for July I selected comedy, and I was going to select seriousness like Cross Recoil, which was serious. But then I came across Yurei Deco, which I wanted to do something more artsy and more lighthearted. But then I realized like Yurei Deco isn't lighthearted whatsoever at all. It's actually more complicated than most anime I've seen. I think the only thing that goes to this level of complication is stuff that you would find in Ghost in the Shell. And the anime itself, the story is not complicated at all. It's quite simple and quite small if you think about how simple it is. But the hidden things behind the wall, that's the stuff that's complicated. What it's trying to tell you, it's complicated. And I mean, it's very complicated. Sometimes it gets even dark if you allow your brain to go to that place. If you just want a simple... See, what's weird about Yurei Deco and Teppen is if you want these things to be lighthearted, they're 100% lighthearted. But if you want them to be dark, they can be very dark if you really think about it. But if you want them to be right in the middle, they can be right in the middle. You can't say that for like us Recall, and you can't say that for um, Ikari Oji-san, or no, Isakai Oji-san. Those were the two that I was considering to be the number one and number two, but I end up with Teppen and I end up with Yurei Deco because the stories for those are much more fascinating, and more than anything, I cannot predict where Teppen nor Yurei Deco are going. So at the moment, these are all animes that were released, new animes, completely new animes, released in July. So I have no idea where Teppen and where Yurei Deco is going. I'm assuming I think I know where it's going based on what the anime is saying, but who is going to win the Grand Prix? I don't know. How the story is going to develop leading towards the end? I don't know. Um, who are going to drop out? Who aren't going to drop out? It's like an episode of Survivor or something. I don't know. Who's going to be the final contestant? I don't know. Who's going to show up? I don't know. And same thing for Yurei Deco. Where's the story going? Is it going to fall off flat? Or is it going to become something phenomenon? Animes that have the potential to either fall flat or to be something 10 times greater than they are the ones that are very appealing because you have no idea where they're going. But at the same time, that's dangerous towards people who are trying to make money in this business. But at the same time, I also know that this is a business, any type of business. When you're making something new, it's all about throwing something on the wall and hopefully you stick and you get something that's gold. So that's what this anime is. For Isekai Oji-san, Netflix took that up really quick because it's more something related towards gamers. And who play gamers? People who watch animes and everything. So they're figuring that they got something hot shit right there with Isekai Oji-san. I doubt it because after I watched the first 3 episodes of Isekai Oji-san, I came to a conclusion that if this anime doesn't sell me something that's worth proceeding forward, something that I could really twist my mind to think about where the story can possibly go or where the story can possibly fall off, and can I make a movie out of this, and can I make a television show out of this, and can I make toys out of this, and can I make electrical appliance out of this. Can you use this anime to do various things in various different other type of entertainment? I don't see Isekai Oji-san being one of that. I think I see Isekai Oji-san being an anime series and an anime movie. I cannot see that being something I see as a real television show. And if I do see it as being a real television show, how would it work with someone who would wake up from 17 years trying to figure out to live their life and then reminisce about Sega Saturn? How long you think a series of someone reminiscing about Sega Saturn can last before you get irritated? How long do you think a story about something like Cross Recoil, which is about assassination and protecting society and emotions between characters and stuff, how many seasons do you think that could go before people start to get tired of that? This is why Teppen came into play, and this is why Yurei Deco came into play. You have no idea what will happen within these animes because in Teppen there are multiple schools that contestants are at. This school is that in Teppen is one of many. Same as Yurei Deco. They are one of many different possibilities Yurei Deco can go in. But before I get into that, I'll get into the 2 best animes for July right now. I won't talk about anything other than 2 best animes of July right now, so I don't get deep into anything. So I'll get straight into the episode. So this is the intro. This girl right here, boom, she's part of the intro. This girl right here, she's part of the intro. Then you get the name of the intro pops up, the word pops up, boom. That's how that happens. And then right after the intro, and I gotta say, the intro here, and intro here, those are complicated. It doesn't look that complicated based on what it is that I'm actually recording based on this video, because I just snap and screenshot these things and then I'm uploading them. But those to create those animations at the beginning intro of Teppen are some of the most complicated shots that I've seen for anime creation for a long time, because you're having multiple characters who are multiple contestants who are going to participate in an event, and there are five different contestants. So in Teppen, there are five different groups of comedians that are participating in Teppen. Um, so let me get straight into it right now, so I don't have to waste any time. And I'm going to ignore like Cross Recoil. I'm going to ignore Isekai Oji-san. I'm gonna go straight to ones that are on this list. And since the beginning, comedians groups are three. That's what I stated. Teppen, there are five specific competitors enrolled in the high school called Takakuo, and that's the name of the high school that they're in, specialized high school, like a boarding school. And list of five groups, and these list of five groups, the first group are the group of girls that you see right here. And this is the first comedic group, and each comedic group consists of three girls per each of these groups. There are five groups, and three girls are within each of these groups. The first comedic group is the main protagonist groups. At least I believe it's the main protagonist, main sellers, the face of the company type group. And this is Young YY. That's the name of their group, called Young YY. Why are they called Young YY? Because their first names are all starts with Y. That means their first name of the first girl is Yayoi, second girl is Yamogi, and the third girl is Yuzu. And their speciality is circumstantial comedy mixed with ridiculous, fictional, made up stuff. Basically, they show up within the town, talking about something that happened in their lives, based on things that are actually happening in their lives then and there, and the circumstance that are happening. And then out of nowhere, freaking Gundam pops out of nowhere and says, Seiya, I gotta go save this person. And then turns out the person that he's saying Seiya to is actually Yamogi or something. Some weird stuff like that. It's ridiculous, but it is comedy after all. It's like something you would see straight out of Gintama. That's why I believe they're the main sellers of the anime. So moving from that, you go into comedic group 2. You have Misayo, Miyu, and Hina. And those group are called Akudara Kingdom. And Akudara Kingdom is specialized in, well, there's no indications what they're specializing in because they haven't had a routine yet. There have only been 3 episodes, and the only people that have had routines are Bullet Konoichi, right here, and of course Young YY, which is right here. So the third group of girls are comedians. Third comedian trio is Iroha, Chisoi, and Hana. Now, Iroha isn't in the screen, but Chisoi and Hana are in the screen. Hana is the girl in the center, and Chisoi, or Chitso, however you want to say it, or Chizo, which is probably the best one, or Chizo, however you want to say it, is best way to describe her, are Bullet Konoichi. That's the name of their group, and they specialize in routines based on experience in life and in past circumstances. So it's not like based on circumstances that are happening in the here and now, like Young YY. They're based most of their comedy on things that happened in their life past, and they use it within their routines to express their comedy. So their comedy are based on history of their past rather than what's happening in the here and now, like Young YY. And I doubt they use any type of fictional, crazy, ridiculous stuff like Young YY does. So from a funny level, I considered Bullet Konoichi a 7, and from a funny level, I considered Young YY an 8. And from a funny level, I considered group number 2, Akudara Kingdom, a 6. They're probably the lowest within the group. Now those are the 3 girls of the first 3 girl group. The fourth of these girls are let me see their names. Sakake or Saika, I'm saying it all wrong. Saika, Mikari, and Mako. And Mako, Hikari, and Saika make up Celebrity. At least that's the name of their comedy group. And there's no indication that these comedians here are actually rich or poor. But what they are doing, they're representing elegant comedy by not physically stating their comedic routine in brash words of um, what they've experienced in the past or in circumstances. Their comedy is mostly based on actions, things that they do, and how they express themselves within their comedy. When they speak about certain things, it always has to do with physical actions related to their comedy based on elegance. It's very strange, but it works. I would say from a comedic level, theirs is a 7. And then we move on to the last of these girls, which is Invaders. Now, Invaders is the only single name comedic group, and Invaders consist of Yuna, Monet, and Chihori. Um, Yuna, oh, I'm saying it all wrong. Yuna, Monet, and Chihori. Now, Chihori is the one that's kind of bizarre, and she's the one on the far right. And I believe Chihori might have mental disorder because she actually really sees aliens. So their group, their whole comedic spiel, specialized in alien invasions or alien coming down to Earth and possessing people, or proving that aliens have come down to invade people, and it's part of their own comedic act of them speaking about aliens and who are aliens and how aliens work and why they're here. And they dress that way to represent the type of comedy they're using. So they use green a lot within how they look as well as what they're saying to represent their type of comedic attire. But from my point of view, I believe either Chihori really sees aliens and aliens are actually in this anime, which is I would say is very strange because this anime is mostly based on things that are really happening in life. That there's no indication that the supernatural are in this world, and nothing supernatural has happened in the first anime or the second anime, which hasn't been released, or at least is being released now, and the third anime, which has come out. So there's nothing supernatural other than what they can think of within their minds to create. But I believe that there might be something wrong with Chihori, why she actually sees aliens, and why her other two friends um, don't see aliens. So it could have been that Chihori was the person that egged them on to be aliens to be part of their whole comedy spiel. But who knows? So those were the 5 girls that are participating in Teppen Grand Prix. And these 5 girls have all passed the preliminaries and have been allowed to enter Takako High School dormitory. And this is Takako High School dormitory, and Takako High School dormitory is basically used to be an apartment, and it was renovated and turned into a high school dorm for comedians. And later you get into the story of why that is. So as you progress further into the first episode of the story, you get to get a little backstory from um, young YY, and young YY basically tells part of their backstory as their routine towards their first stand-up, which is the first episode is about mostly about young YY giving their first routine towards a group of people, as well as giving their first routine to you, the viewing audience watching this anime called Teppen Grand Prix. So part of their backstory that they're going back when they first entered the grounds of Takako High, they were introduced by a dormitory manager, And this dormitory manager is a guy that lifts a lot of weights and is really into weightlifting. And his name is Seiji. And Seiji is bizarre because he has trophies about him working out within the dormitory. He has it in the shelf, but he's the groundskeeper, and he's supposed to make sure everyone keeps everything is in order. Make sure everything is in order. Basically, he's like the manager as well as the janitor and custodian, as well as the person that accounts for everyone who are on the grounds as well as keep attendance to everyone. So it's kind of weird. It's like a bodybuilder being hired to be a school manager, like a school manager of a school, of an all boys school or a girls school. It's super weird. I mean, it could have easily been a female bodybuilder to be the manager of an all girls school, but they decided it would be more funny for it to be a guy because I guess a guy bodybuilder is more humorous in comedy than a woman bodybuilder. I guess it might be more of a turnoff. For what I could tell, maybe they did went for that, and they realized it wasn't as funny as having a guy bodybuilder. So it would have worked as a guy bodybuilder for all boys school, and it does still work for bodybuilder being part of a girl school. But it is kind of weird and kind of creepy, and it's like I said, um, there are some undertones that the anime is trying to tell you about the industry, entertainment industry, not just comedic entertainment industry, but any industry that has to do with um, exploiting young men and young women or children in the business, and bizarrety of things that they see and people that they come across and experience. Like Seiji right here, you wouldn't think someone like this would be in the industry, but I guarantee the people who made this anime uh, reflect on individuals they've come across within the industry that they didn't expect to be in the industry, um, for what the type of work that they were doing. Like there will never be like a huge bodybuilding manager for a comedic industry that has nothing to do with workout, but really maybe there is. So who knows? So moving on from there, the girls also then tell the story of how they found his bodybuilding statue, and by accident, the sisters of uh, the sisters of Yomogi, I believe these are Yomogi's sisters, younger sisters, like little kid sisters, were playing with toys, and they found the statue in a closet when they came over to visit her. Um, and nobody was watching, and so they put the chairs. They took some chairs, and they went into the closet, and they were able to get the trophy, the statue out of the closet. I mean, not of the trophy closet or the trophy counter, whatever the hell that thing is. Um, what I'm still fascinating is how the hell were they able to open it? Isn't there like a lock or a key or something to keep it in place? But this is a comedy, so ridiculousness is part of the whole spiel. Um, so for who knows how they were able to get in, but it's not about logic. It's about comedic execution. Um, and that was their story, part of their comedic execution. For who really knows if there were actually her sisters were actually there and they actually went into the closet and they actually took the statue out and they found the statue and they try to fix it back into place like right here, but they turned it into some type of um, crazy deformed thing that's on top of a horse, gave it horse legs and then gave it feathers and wings or whatever the hell they did with it, but they turned it into some type of abomination. um, and then they went back to this. All of a sudden, they pop into the screen and they're behind a mic, and that was the end of their little story. And there were people standing in front of them listening to their story, and that was their routine, their circumstance that happened in their life, their routine. how they got into Teppen, how they met all the groundskeeper, and what happened to the statue, and how they executed their comedy based on their experience. That's why I said Young YY's whole thing is circumstantial comedy. And then somewhere along the road of them trying to fix this his bodybuilding statue, um, one of the girls started to talk about freaking alien. I don't think it was aliens, about a city burning, and then someone coming in wearing like a type of Titan outfit or some bizarre nonsense that they came up with as part of their whole routine. So it was very strange. At the same time, it was also very entertaining to hear them distribute the type of comedy to this audience for them to win the Teppen Grand Prix at the same time delivering who they are as comedians towards this act to the viewing audience watching the anime called Teppen. So there are two type of deliveries happening here. The delivery towards them in the anime trying to win this Teppen Grand Prix and convince businesses and convince an audience, viewing audience, that they are funny, as well at the same time trying to convince you, the audience watching the show, Teppen, um, that the anime is this type of comedy, that it's not comedy as the whole, is that it's a comedic act, like a stand-up. So them telling their story and including it into their stand-up is the whole idea. So they're selling their story to you, the viewing audience, as well as selling their story to what's the story inside of Teppen. So they're selling to two different audience, to the stories of what's going on inside, and to you, the audience themselves. Or you could say the company Drive is selling the story of Teppen to you as well. So it's very interesting. And then they went to have food, and then that's the end of the first episode. And then you get into straight into episode 3, because episode 2 didn't come out. So that's another weird thing about the company. It could be that they actually did that intentional as part of the company's old comedic thing um, to say that that was something bizarre happening within their company, a circumstance happening, and so they released episode 3, and episode 3 came out before episode 2 in July, and that was weird. But I don't think that's very funny at all, to be honest with you. I think that's concerning. Um, but then I found out that it wasn't really something that's to be concerned about. It's just that the level of animation that was done for episode 2 was far more than the level of animation done for episode 1. Or the level of animation done for episode 1 was so draining and a lot that they didn't have time to finish the level of animation for episode 2, which was supposed to be a lot as well. But apparently, the episode for animation for episode 3 wasn't as much as that of episode 2. So this is episode 3, and in episode 3 of Teppen, I'll get into that right now. So I'm scrolling down to this. Okay, so in episode 3, we're introduced to Bullet Konoichi here, and episode 3 is focused on Bullet Konoichi, so I'm guessing if episode 2 came out before episode 3, it would probably focus on Akudara Kingdom, if it's now focusing on episode 3 being Bullet Konoichi. So the first episode was Young YY, the second episode will probably be Akudara Kingdom, and the third episode, which is this episode, is Bullet Konoichi's turn for their routine of stand-up. So it starts off in the same way episode 1 ended, with them standing from the mic. So episode 3, you dive deeper into characters, and the team gets their little routine. And then episode 3 shows that after this first little standing up in front of the mic, you're now transferred over to the school dormitory, and inside the school, in order for them to be seen and to show up on a variety show, to get themselves promoted, to be recognized, to get more recognition, so they could get more stand-up gigs and get more popularity and possibly win the Teppen Grand Prix. Two out of the five groups of girls have to be able to lift weights over their heads, or at least pick up the weights above their head. And I was like, what the hell does? How do you decide who goes on the show by just picking up weights? So that's episode 3. That's the beginning of episode 3. So after that happens, the only two groups that were able to pick it up was obviously Akudara Kingdom and Bullet Konoichi. So, but this episode is mostly focused on Bullet Konoichi, not Akudara Kingdom. So after they pick it up, Kana, which is probably Bullet Konoichi's main girl, you know, the most motivational one out of the group, probably the youngest as well, likes to kick ass and takes names, is doing her little Bruce Lee thing. And not in the way that you suspect, you think, you know, she wants to prove that how badass our comedic group is. It's more based on, and this is incredibly ridiculous and probably one of the reasons why I like this anime. She's worried about getting kidnapped by Yakuza for reasons, because she assumes for some craziness in the back of her head that there's a Yakuza boss that looks just like her. And the Yakuza boss is probably going to kidnap her. I mean, not the Yakuza boss is going to kidnap her. The Yakuza boss is going to die one day, and they're going to need a replacement within the Yakuza organization. And then they're going to kidnap her because she looked like the Yakuza boss. So in her mind, in all seriousness, she believes that there's a Yakuza boss out there that looks just like her. Why she believes this it makes no sense whatsoever. I just think she's just doing it to mess with the others, but she's very serious and very strange. And so she's working out simply because she assumes this is going to happen one day. The more she gets popular, the more she'll be seen by others and eventually kidnapped by the Yakuza to replace their boss who looks like her with someone else. But once again, this is hidden messaging the anime is trying to tell you about the awareness of their industry, or of any industry in the entertainment business, where you have to come across certain type of people, or the more popular you get, you have to be on the guard for certain type of individuals. So it's not mostly about meeting Yakuza or replacing Yakuza boss, but I guess it's trying to tell you that you have to be on guard for the type of people who are going to come calling one day once you start to become popular. So that's another little hidden thing that it's trying to say, while at the same time not forcibly trying to say it. And that's another thing I like about the anime. It's not trying to force the idea and thought of what it's trying to say onto you, but it's giving you the idea of what is actually going on that it's trying to say. Then moving on from that, the girls from Akudai Kingdom are looking up about this variety show that both groups have been chosen for, Akudai Kingdom and Bullet Konoichi. So they look up this variety show, and the variety show that's supposed to have them on it is called Girls, Girls, Girls. And Girls, Girls, Girls is managed by this guy right here, and his name is, yeah, he looks like a creeper, because he probably is a creeper, but it's not in the creeper that you would think. He's more like, I'm just a weirdo who like girls, 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 but I'm not a weirdo that's trying to mess around and fool with girls. I wish I was born a girl. That's what I get from this guy when I was watching him and everything he was doing. Someone that probably wished he was born a girl instead of a guy. It's super weird. It's like I said, there's hidden things that the anime is trying to tell you. But this head producer is called Akudai Khan, and Akudai Khan was in charge of Girls, 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 the TV program dedicated to talking about various professions girls within the various industries decide that this time around um, for lack of a best month to be chosen, I'll just choose July. For all I know, it could be August in this anime, or even earlier. I'm gonna pick. Well, maybe it's not July, but I'm gonna pick spring. Okay, so I'm gonna pick spring. So in spring, this guy decides to have his girls program, and on this month in spring, say April, um, he invited two of the girls from the Teppen Grand Prix preliminaries to enter on his show. And they're going to show up there. And they did a little investigation of who he is, and then they showed up to the location. But before that happens, the girls from Young YY went out to get food and said, "Oh man, well, since we weren't picked to go on the show, we're just gonna go pick up some food." And while they're doing their things, so the girls who weren't selected from to go on the show, um, which is Young YY, the group there, asked the girls from um, Celebrity to. Oh, I just get it now. I can't believe it. After watching all those episodes, I just realized. I just realized it's actually not. It's celebrity, like celebrity, but they're drinking tea and they're celebrating drinking tea. But it's celebrity. Oh, okay, so yeah, I didn't think about it that they were funny before, but then I realized, yeah, they're kind of funny. So to me, the funniest people within this show are the ones that are least that come across the least funny, because they do things, their actions is bizarre based on who they're supposed to actually represent. So for this one, before the girls go to pick up food and stuff, they ask the girls from Celebrity TEA, "Hey, you guys want anything? We're going to the store, blah 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 blah." It's like, but we're actually, it's not a store to pick up stuff. We're actually doing a gig for someone, and they want us to do work for them. And say, one of the girls said, "Well, that's cool. Can I come with you? Since you're doing work." It's like, but they're not gonna pay us. And so they said, "Oh, okay, never mind. We're gonna sit here and lie under this nice little shade with our glasses on, and enjoy the rays." And I like this because one, it shows that the girls, as much as hard worker as they are at their comedic work, they're unwilling to take jobs if they're not going to get paid to do it. That's the part I like about Celebrity. Um, what I also like about Celebrity is that, unlike, or maybe just the anime itself, they're in the shit. They're under the huge beach umbrella, and they're out there in the sun. But they are not in bikinis and stuff. And they're not in bikinis because this anime is not about sex appeal. This anime is about comedy. The sex appeal is the comedy. So if the comedy is not alluring and good, there's no reason for anything that they're physically doing to be represented unless it's part of the comedy. So if it's not being used in the comedy, there's no reason for them to use it. For instance, they're wearing shades underneath a huge umbrella in what I'm assuming is not hot weather because they have all their clothes on, um, is part of the comedy. But then at the same time, I'm assuming it's also not hot weather, but it's cool weather. That's why I'm guessing it's April. But even if that isn't the case, most anime will simply just put girls in bikinis to put girls in bikinis, even if they're not at beach, and even if it's not the hot day. But not this anime. That's another thing I like about it. So they were introduced just for like a hot minute, and then we kicked back to Akadara Kingdom trying to um, do their whole stealth thing, and while this guy is sleeping inside of a room to take a nap from a hard day's work, um, which is still daytime. So for some bizarre reason, the producer decides to take a nap inside of a tent and go to sleep during production. And then during this time, that one of the girls from Akadara Kingdom said, "Well, they're gonna select Bullet Konoichi as the winner for the television program rather than us, who are the cutest." So one of them got it into their head. I'm going to put some food inside of his mouth, and he's gonna, even if he doesn't eat it, he'll have a taste of the food in his mouth while he's sleeping, so that he will remember the name of the the, the actual type of food that he eats, and he'll know exactly where it comes from, and it will come from the actual district that Akadara Kingdom original group is from. So that's their idea of having him choose them over Bullet Konoichi. It doesn't go her way, and her whole Mission Impossible thing ends up turning against her, and he actually gets pissed off. So he leans towards Bullet Konoichi more, but at the end, he ended up being pissed off with Bullet Konoichi too, because, like I said before, this enemy is trying to tell you something about the industry secretly, but without forcing it on you. Um, what he wants is not in line with what the girls want. They're comedians, they're there to do comedy. He's not really caring about the comedy. He's caring about their image and cuteness. And Kana eventually catches on to this, realizes she's not going to do that, ruins his production, throws paintballs on everyone and on her friends as well. And he gets pissed off and said, "This is not cuteness." She says she doesn't care. We're all about what we're trying to do in order to win the Teppen Grand Prix. This doesn't represent anything about comedy and fun. And that's where they make their stand. And then, of course, Iroha tells her other Teppen member, I mean, not Bullet Konoichi member, that, hey, if it wasn't for Kana, we wouldn't be where we are today. So they're using kind of Kana as this stepping stone or defense to keep them motivated in order to win the Teppen Grand Prix. And I have the feeling you'll bite them in the ass one day. That she'll realize that they're actually using her in order to keep them motivated. I mean, but it's kind of a thing that adults do. And in fact, they even said it themselves. They're going to take down all the shady sleaziness within the business and what that adults do. But they're kind of doing kind of a shady thing with Kana as well. But not to the level that adults do. And eventually, I have a feeling it bite them in the ass. But that was the end of episode 3. And based on that, I would say Teppen is extremely interesting. And since there are only 3 episodes so far, and episode 2 was released this week, and I haven't really reviewed episode 2 because it just came out this. I think it just came out today, or if not today, yesterday. Yeah, I believe it came out yesterday. I wasn't unable to look it up in time yesterday and pay attention to every details of the anime yesterday. So yeah, that sucks. But at the same time, it doesn't really suck, because even if this anime is missing an episode, like it was missing episode 2, it really doesn't need episode 2. That's another reason why I chose Teppen. If it missed out on something in a previous episode, it doesn't really need or depend on that previous episode in order to sell more of the stories in later episodes. So that was the first one that I believe is probably the best anime I've seen out of, I guess, the last 10 animes, or the last 10 animes I've watched in July that were not continuation animations. Whether they were continuation movies or continuation television shows that were of the brand new 10 animes released in July. I believe Teppen was based on the hook for the beginning first episode. The hook for Teppen was what kept me going. And it's also one of the reasons why I selected it as being the best anime for July. And moving on to the second best anime for July. This is now, and based on the screen cap I did from my phone, if I enlarge this, the quality starts to go down, degrade a lot. So I'll probably keep it at this level. And this anime is Yurei Deco. And Yurei Deco first starts off the second anime describing that there was a many-eye god. And this many-eye god basically the many eye God is supposed to represent Big Brother, or people who used to use the internet to look and to spy onto the lives of both criminals as well as innocent people. The many eye God, or at least that's what I'm assuming, the many eye God was eventually destroyed and replaced by a different type of system. After people became so fearful of governments that had too much power, that were doing too much spying, or militaries that were allowed to have eyes and ears everywhere. So all autocratic rule and communistic rule were overruled in this world, and a more of a um, libertarian social binding government was set in place. Whereas if someone is managing who's breaking the law and who's not breaking the law, it would have to be the citizens themselves doing this. And you would have to, in order to do this, be allowed to work within a certain environment, and that environment was under a committee run by a specific group of people in a committee, and that committee was set up and called, what was it called? Citizens? No. It was called Center. It was called Customer Center. The community called Customer Center. And when you hear the word customer center, you would think of customer service. But that is kind of what it's trying to tell you. The ruling body of this world is customer service. Like if you need someone to be kept in their place because they decide to do some type of crime, it was customer service. And customer service would be everyone. Everyone was in charge of customer service. And how that works is that individuals were hired from families, and each individual from a family that was hired, or of obviously adults, were hired to work within a united government, and those united government committee office was called customer center. So everyone, and it doesn't have to be every single person from every family, just have to be maybe one or two people, parents or something, worked within a specific division of customer center, because customer center is split up into various divisions. There could be division for happiness division, or a division for regulation and deleting certain um, bad behaviors, or a division for this. But basically, you were given house and home and certain benefits and things to do in life based on your service towards the overall governing body of society. So you were partially responsible for governing your neighbors and yourself at the same time. So if you were judging your neighbors, you would eventually be judged as well, and it will eventually be taken out of you by something called hearts. So in order to manage this thing that judge you as well as those who you judge upon, is called Deco. And the Deco is the balancing AI software that can either be planted within your eyes, or something that you could use on an eyewear in order to enter what is called the hyperverse. And the hyperverse is what gives you the currency of hearts. And hearts is the currency of the land. And the more hearts that you get, the better your life gets, because hearts represent empathy, sympathy, and everything that you have towards making your life better, making your circumstance better, making your neighbor's life better, making their circumstance better, and basically living good. So the idea of jealousy and want and desire is not needed in this world, because everything you've ever wanted you can claim by yourself without need to take from anyone else. Because the moment you try to take it from someone else, it's equally taken from you. So if you decide to, let's say your PlayStation goes out and you need a PlayStation but you don't have money, so you decide to rob someone's PlayStation. then someone will eventually come to your house and take something in your house that you took that's equal to the PlayStation. Like literally. They would automatically know that you stole something. And you could say, well, that's invasion of privacy, but it really isn't, because you, by agreeing to have Deco and be part of the Deco system, you're agreeing to what you yourself has stated you don't want to be done onto you. So the moment you do it onto someone else, you automatically decided to spy on your own self. You don't want someone to come and take something from you out of your house, but actually you do want someone to come in your house and take something out of your house because you agree that that should happen. So it's very clever, this Deco system, but at the same time, it's also, I'm not 100% sure that this type of system will work. I'll say 65% that it works, but other remaining percent, it might not work. But this is an anime trying to define what this anime is. So at the beginning of this anime, you see this little boy here, and he is probably one of the problematic children within this world. His whole spiel is "I love AI," or as he say, "I love I," and he's kind of like the disorderly conduct person who wants to knock down all the walls of everything that the Delco system represent, because he believed that there's an instability between those who are poor and those who are rich, and it's not like your definition of the standard poor and rich, where the rich can always get everything and the poor cannot. No, in this Deco world, everyone can get everything if you are able to manage your emotions. Unfortunately, certain people cannot manage their emotions, and that's where he is saying that, from his point of view, that there are certain things that certain human beings can't do and other human beings can't do emotionally, which is true. So the Deca system is not a broken system. It's just a lesser violent system than past systems, or systems that we have now within our government. This is the Deco system is more of a peaceful system, and it works in this world more than any other system of the past that violent type of takeovers happen from our history. So I would say the Deco system will work if we were in that type of future. But like all things, human beings are jealous, greedy individuals. And even though you're able to get everything you want, you will find some way to ruin it somehow, by either you're being complacent and not paying attention to your reality and spending too much time in the virtual world, or ignoring the fact of others suffering so that you could continue to enjoy your life. But here's the thing, that's why the Deco system is very strange that way. Um, Everyone who's suffered before were part of the Deco system before. So what led them to suffer? Negligence? They weren't smart enough? Or maybe they were just unsatisfied from the beginning and the Deco system was just a cop out for them to deal with life. Either way, whatever personally goes on in a human being's life, a system cannot govern the nature of mankind, regardless of what system it is. The Deco tries to do it better than most. And in the first anime, the first episode, we come across this kid, and then we're easily transition into an office or a room where a kid is actually seen to, let me see, where am I? Yeah, where a kid is actually seen to be amongst other kids, and in this virtual world you can be whatever you want, so they all decide to dress in like different animals or toys or whatever makes them feel good about themselves. um, and then the main kid right here is the one that we're looking after, and this kid is called himself Cat, is known as Barry. His avatar is a cat. What is Berry or Blueberry or Redberry, whatever this character wants to call himself, is called Berry. And he is not really a he, he's a she. And Berry in this virtual world used the cat to represent what she wants to be. So eventually she discovers that a character called Phantom Zero was spotted within District 17. And Phantom Zero of this world is what I would call an anomaly. things that does not make sense within the Deco system of the AI world or the hyperverse, alternate reality world. And so she's psyched about it because in this world of Yurei Deco, there are no crimes because crime doesn't need to happen because everyone can find something to be happy about, even the worst of people. However, even the worst of people exist everywhere, and those who don't follow what is appealing to being balanced, those people are eventually purged, and I'll get into that later on. Um, so right now, she discovers that um, Phantom Zero, which is basically the entity that destroy hearts or needs for hearts, um, pops up somewhere. And her thing is that she's very intrigued by anything that's fascinating to her that's not considered a norm. So one day she decides to go off into this District 17 and runs into Mr. Troublemaker. And Mr. Troublemaker is looking for specific data on Phantom Zero himself, or herself, or whatever Phantom Zero is. And his whole thing is that, like I said before, he wants to topple what was there before. But there's no definition based on the anime that he's actually specifically want to do that. But you can kind of guess that that's something he's trying to do, that the anime is trying to tell us that he's trying to do, without telling us that he's trying to do it. So she chases him down, she follows him, she ends up getting thrown into this world that he jumps into, and eventually she's chased down by Phantom Zero's elimination program. And this elimination program basically wipes out anything within the hyperverse, because Phantom Zero, like I said, doesn't is an anomaly itself, and it's kind of like the Langoliers of Stephen King's books. They're simply there to eat away at things that doesn't have balance within the logic of what it is that they represent. And the hearts are kind of a contradiction of what Phantom Zero represents. And so Phantom Zero wants to eat away at those things that are not part of its existence. But the hearts are what keeps this society in balance. So what is Phantom Zero and what does Phantom Zero really want? Is it good? Is it bad? There are more stories going on within the stories of this world, more than there are within the story of Teppen. So after he rescues her from being deleted, he then comes across Phantom Zero, and Phantom Zero is this floating system, or this floating thing. Um, for all I know, Phantom Zero could be a program itself, within the system of um, the hyperverse. Like the hyperverse created the Phantom Zero simply to make sure balance and order is kept place. Like if people become too much slackers and fat and stuff and enjoy the universe that they're in, they might not want to go back into reality. And going back into reality is essential because you eventually have to get up and use the bathroom sometime. You can't just stay inside this verse. So that could be what Phantom Zero represents, something to remind you of what's more valuable outside of that verse. Or Phantom Zero could be something that's completely malicious and trying to destroy everything that's good. For right now, it's seeming like Phantom Zero is a malicious thing. It's not on the side of anyone, like the troublemaker kid that's simply troublemaker for being troublemaker, or on the side of Barry, who's simply intrigued with things that aren't considered normal and boring of this non-violent world. So Phantom Zero might actually be the true criminal of this world, the true bad thing of this world. But that was episode 1. Diving directly into episode 2 stuff and kicks off directly after episode 1. So directly after episode 1, we go straight into episode 2, and directly after episode 1 ends, episode 2 picks up. The kid throws like a paper plane at Phantom Zero. It hits Phantom Zero, and the invisibility of or transparency of the paper plane then returns back to him and is in the color of purple. And the purple represents collection of data. So it was transparent like glass before, like a glass bottle before. But once it returned back to him after touching Phantom Zero, it became full with data. And so he took that data and then put it within the flower, and the flower is kind of like a storage container um, that's used to remember information, which is bizarre because each of the flower within this anime, or found flowers like this within this anime, are supposed to be part of the one-eye god. So yeah, there's many things going on within this anime that does not make sense. And if you're able to decipher it, then it'll slowly start to make sense to you. So who knows where the one-eyed god will show up later on, or if he'll ever show up again, or if the one-eyed god will just be represented as a flower from here on throughout the entire anime. Regardless, he put the data into the flower, and then we later see him getting out of the hyperverse, and boom, cops show up. Well, these aren't cops; these are citizens. But the citizens authorized to do this type of regulation of keeping people in order who are trying to step outside of the law of the Deco system. And these enforcers track them down to bring them to court, and eventually it doesn't say it within episode 2 that he was caught, but it was hinted that he was caught by these guys. And so once Barry returns to her friends and wearing her nice little 80s montage type outfit, as well as futuristic synth type wave behavior, which I must point out in this anime that they use a lot of synth music to represent this anime, as well as a lot of decor type of art style to represent this anime, and as well as a lot of open shots as well. But the animation itself of characters isn't the special thing. Was how they use the art style, and how they use the colors, and how they represent the animation and the type of style of the animation. So this is very much like watching the cover of a synthwave, cyberpunkish type music cover. Like what she's wearing is something that you would see as someone drew an artwork for a cyberpunk type synthwave music album cover. So, but this anime kind of feels that way at the same time. It feels very cyberpunkish without the cyber, or future punkish. I would say it feels future punkish, whereas it's the robots aren't part of the whole factor. It's more like future or political punkish. I don't know how you go with that, but this is basically what the anime is trying to tell you. So moving on from that, she goes to her friend's place. You see her there with her friends. She's wearing her whole little Miami Vice, whatever, glasses and stuff. She doesn't want to go back into the hyperverse because she's interested to know what happened to the weird kid, and she is dwelling on it. But at the same time, she doesn't want to tell her friends that her deco in her eyes is broken, and she can't enter the hyperverse, because if she tried to enter the hyperverse without her deco installed, it won't. One, it would probably let her, but two, it would identify to the customer service that she has an unregistered presence within the hyperverse. So anything that's considered unregistered is considered an outsider towards the city, and probably get her booted out of the whole city and consider a Yurei. But I will get into the whole thing of Yurei actually being part of the whole world of the Deco system. So after she meets her friend, she goes home. She then picks up her father's glasses that allows her to get into the hyperverse. And her broken eye doesn't work, so she can't enter the hyperverse. So she uses her father's glasses. She puts it on. She's finally able to see what her father does for a living. And once she realizes what her father does for a living is that he's a regulator of emotions. Basically, his job is to delete tragic emotions found from people who have implants in their eyes or who wear glasses like his, going daily lives, doing daily things within the hyperverse. And sometimes those people who are spend too much time within the hyperverse forget that they actually have stuff on the stove, or circumstances like fires accidentally happen within their apartment, and they have to experience this type of suffering. And those things are deleted from the deco system because anything that's considered suffering is bad. And you must not remember the bad stuff. You must always be remember the good stuff in order to produce more good stuff so other people could feel good. Because the more you experience bad stuff, the more pain other people will see you have. Thus, they will actually feel pain from what you have. Happiness must be contagious, not sadness. So their job is to eliminate you feeling any type of sadness. But you're going to feel the sadness because it happened. It's not something like the deco could remove from inside of you. It's just the experience of you, it being logged into your deco ID of what you experience in life has been removed. Eventually, Barry discovers this, that a lot of things have been deleted, and a lot of people are deleting these things, especially stuff about the kid. And she questions her parents with regards to that, and soon she finds out that her parents have been not really lying to her, but withholding information from her with regards to what they do for a living, simply to make sure she stays happy and she stays functional, and she doesn't focus on depression. She focuses more on the future. So moving on from that, she realized that from her point of view, her parents are complete liars, not telling her the whole truth of what the actual deco or people who work for the customer center does. And so she runs away from home finally without use of the hyperverse. So she's not running away from home using the hyperverse. She's actually physically leaving her house, running on the streets without using any type of things to enter any place. So she now is considered an unregistered citizen, not because she's taking off her or logged out of the system and moving around society, but because she doesn't have operating registered eye that has the Deco operating system working. So she actually running away from home, like a real runaway this time. And eventually, we come on to showing that actually the kid has been captured and questioned by this organization here, which are part of the regulators for the customer center, and they're making sure he's going to have a trial for everything he's done, because once again, um, depression is contagious and not good, so he has to be tried for that. Goodness must be passed out. You can't allow depression to spread. So eventually, Barry comes across this character here, and this character name is Ghost. At least that's what he calls himself, but his true name is Finn. And he defines Ghost as what the Deco system registered those who are unregistered within the city, or at least what the community classifies people who are unregistered within the hyperverse, or those who cannot enter the hyperverse, or those who cannot enjoy the comforts of the hyperverse, or those who are not registered as citizens and use the deco system as a ghost, because you don't exist. You move among society. You can be seen in society, but no one spends their actual day-to-day lives within reality. They spend their day-to-day lives doing work and doing activities, driving cars and picking up food and delivering and doing artwork and doing sales within the hyperverse. So in reality, nothing happens in reality other than the standard: I have to log out, use the restroom, go to sleep, wake up, put my clothes on, drink water, and then log back into the hyperverse. That's how that works. You don't have to leave your house. You don't have to do anything. Everything is there within the hyperverse. The only thing that is needed for you to shut off in reality are the same thing that's needed now, when everyone has to finish work and come home and do the standards that they always do: shower, food, sleep, and then get up and go to work. Three things: shelter, shower, sleep, That's it. That's all is needed out of reality and reality things related to reality. Three things. Everything else is within the Deco hyperverse. And that's where this, what he's trying to say, what Finn is trying to tell Barry, that everything that you will ever need in life is within the hyperverse. These little pockets of reality, these little planets, that's where everyone are in. They're each in their individual planets or individual utopias or individual paradise. While reality is much more bleaker than it is, because since everyone is within the hyperverse, everything outside of the hyperverse is actually deteriorating. Houses aren't really being managed. People who are not citizens are living in homes that aren't being upkept because no one is paying them to keep these houses upkept or to keep the buildings they're staying in upkept, because no one cares about people who are unregistered and not in the system, and they're not going to get money from the being hyperburst or love, which is the currency, get enough love to get things, physical things, to manage their house because they're not registered. So they have to live in broken down houses. So he explained that these people are considered ghosts because they could be walking right among you, walking right next to you, walking right by you, and you would not see them because they're unregistered, and your eyes that are registered are logged in towards the system as you're doing your daily activities, walking dogs, checking your emails, buying something from a store, and communicating, playing games, regardless of what it is, whatever you are actually seeing in life as you're moving in life are things that are actually presented within the hyperverse. Your tables, your pens, your bookcases, your everything. You want to paint your room, paint your walls. You want to move. You want to clean up your room. You know, you're not actually cleaning up your room. You're cleaning up your hyperverse room. Everything that you've ever seen in reality is now in the hyperverse. Even though you have a room in reality, but you don't give a shit about your room in reality. You give a shit about your room in the hyperverse. So these people are freely able to walk among you, and you will not be able to know that they're even there. That's why they're called ghosts. The bad part about it is that they can do whatever the hell they want. And no one seems to care that these people are going to be able to do whatever the hell they want because they're ghosts. But here's the thing about these ghosts. They're not physically ghosts. That's the main problem. That's why the Deco system isn't fully functional and fully work. You cannot have unregistered criminals amongst people who are registered. Because if you have unregistered people who are criminals amongst people who are registered, or not even criminals, you have unregistered people who are poor amongst those who are rich, eventually they'll become more repressed and they'll lean towards other things that eventually will become problematic, or they'll simply try to be around these people in order to get hearts again. But whatever they're experiencing in their life will rub off on those who are around them. So it's important to understand that the Deco system is not a fully balanced system as of yet. And the people who made this anime, Yurei Deco, specifically made it that way because they're trying to show a type of imbalance within the society that we're living in, that no matter how good you make a system in order to balance off ruling a world, a utopia, there will always be a type of factor that you're overlooking, and that's the human factor. Certain people simply can't catch on to things faster than others. Other people simply are too slow to catch on to things than others. Other people simply don't understand how to do certain things faster than others. Other people simply know how to do things too faster than others, and acting too faster than others might frustrate them because they don't understand why you can't keep up. Thus, their stress starts to increase. Thus, their aggravation increase. Thus, their depression and anger increase. Thus, they start to get hearts depleted, and thus they start to wonder, why am I getting kicked out from being registered, though I'm smarter than everyone else in the room? Their lack of understanding that they themselves shouldn't be removed from the Deco system, but their lack of understanding that the balance, that the Deco is not fully balanced, because The Deco doesn't work with those who are too smart, as well as the Deco doesn't work with those who are too slow. The Deco is supposed to be balanced, and that's not how the world works. The world is both of smart, both of slow, and those are right in between. The Deco system only hits those who are in between, not those who are fast or those who are slow. So it's trying to tell you something, that balance is required in order for everyone to communicate with each other. And in our society, the rich refuse to communicate with those who are poor, and the poor refuse to communicate with those who are rich due to the circumstances that happened in the past. And the ecosystem represents this, or the people of this world represent a world where the bullshit that we're living in our society says, F you, man. We came up with something much better, but you know what? Human beings will still be human beings. So even if we create something great, like something straight out of Star Trek, where people don't need money anymore or need um, dictator type governments or political patriotic type governments in order to rule things or keep things in check. We know how to do it better. We have the citizens being their own governing body over each other and themselves. And if they start to be uppity, they themselves are the reason to bring them own selves down and put them own selves in jail. It's like, well, how the hell can I put my own self in jail? They're like, I would never do that to myself, but yeah, you do. The Deco system is an example of this. So this is a very fascinating anime, and it has many practical applications. So moving on from there, we get to see this Jimi Hendrix type guy who creates this device, at least transports this device to Finn, and Finn then decide to, in order to prove Mr. Troublemaker's innocence, to say that it was Phantom Zero, Finn says, okay, I'm going to let Barry go into this standalone type world I've created, and Barry enters the standalone world he creates on his own, and he then downloads or uploads the base foundation system of the hyperverse inside of his own standalone hyperverse. So in order to contain the hyperverse that the community created, he had to make another hyperverse of his own that's similar to that of the hyperverse of the foundation for the Deco system. That's the only way he could latch on to the Deco system that's being controlled right now by the community. And that's the only way that Barry, who doesn't have a workable Deco, is able to enter into this universe as well, the standalone, and then go into the actually foundation world that the community created. It's very fascinating stuff. It's basically she going in from one standalone complex, like something straight out of Ghost in the Shell, into another complex. So it's very interesting. And then she found the evidence that she needs, and she then moves on to saving this evidence. And saving evidence within this world means that it's like a vacuum, a zoom vacuum. So it's like airtight bubbles just collapse together and then forms this data, and then that data is then uploaded into this this flower, and the flower contains the data of Mr. Troublemaker's innocence, that it was actually Phantom Zero. So at Phantom Zero's, or should I say at Mr. Troublemaker's trial, and at this moment we learned that Mr. Troublemaker's name is actually Hack, and he's called Hack. In episode 3, he's called Hack. They're trying to prove his innocence. She ended up pretending to be this older version of herself, and says that she's there to represent her client, blah blah blah, and she brought the evidence of where he was, what he was doing, and it proves that he didn't actually cause the phenomenon or the anomaly, that the Phantom Zero was the actual one that caused it. So, surprise, surprise, the prosecuting attorney turned out to be Phantom Zero, or at least Phantom Zero in disguise, a robot, or at least a robot controlled by the program of Phantom Zero. And so everyone got scared and realized, oh, we're not in virtual reality anymore. This is This is a real court system, and in this real court system, which is happening in reality, that because for reasons I don't simply understand myself, um, everything is done within the hyperverse, but yet the court system is done outside of the hyperverse. I guess that's the only the breaking point, the limitations of where the law and where the hyperverse goes. That court-related things aren't completely logged within the hyperverse or done within the hyperverse, but yet at the same time you can use Deco system to bring evidence within this world. So everyone got scared and realized that they got to get the hell out of the court because they believe Phantom Zero is going to steal their hearts and kill them or something like that, which there's no proof that Phantom Zero kills people outside of the hyperverse. They only delete them from inside the hyperverse. So everyone runs for it, and that gives Barry opportunity to save Hack. And Hack is saved by Barry. They escaped, but they didn't really escape because and this is where the anime becomes very strange to me once again. Um, Once you're considered an unregistered citizen, and once you're considered an outlaw, unregistered citizen, not just an unregistered citizen, because unregistered citizens are called Yurei, and Yurei are unregistered citizens. Um, if you're a criminal and you're an unregistered citizen, um, you can now be terminated. And I didn't know that until the last scene, which is here, when drones started fire on them. And I mean fire on them. I'm not talking about virtual reality firing on them because remember, Barry's Deco doesn't work. So she's in reality at the moment. So they're actually firing on them real live rounds. I'm not talking about bullets. I'm talking about whatever it is that they're firing on them. Whatever it is that they're firing, whether it's lasers or digital beams, those things cut straight through the metal and destroyed what they were on and exploded. So it's okay to kill children as long as those children are criminals and unregistered criminals. Now, this is what I'm just assuming based on the actions that are happening here, that they don't care about you if you're unregistered or you and that you're a criminal. They care about you if you're unregistered because they won't attack you. They'll leave you alone. They know you exist, but they don't. As long as you're not committing a crime, they'll leave you alone. But the moment you commit a crime and you're unregistered, you can be terminated, even if you're a kid. So this is why I say the Deco system doesn't fully work, even though it does work. But you could say, well, if they're killing people, then it doesn't really work. But you're right. It really doesn't work if they're killing people who are criminals who don't follow the law and are causing other people to be depressed and probably become criminals themselves. So you see, from the point of view I'm trying to say, it's very condescending me defending the Deco system, but at the same time, there's some truth behind it that's very important to why you should be defending the Deco system. So the Deco system is a 50-50. It's a probability hex or spinning of a coin. You need it because it's better than past systems that would judge you based on little or no evidence, or even based on lots of evidence to prove that whether you're innocent or guilty, and lock you up in the court, or lock you up in jail, and hopefully that based on 15 years you're let out, or whatever system you're let out, and you go back to work and you're in society again. You know, where the Deco probably does the same thing, find out a way to lock people up, is far more lenient, where it's more based on you yourself being your own judge, jury, and executioner, and if you fall short of your own promises, You are the reason why you put yourself in those situations. So, but I could be completely wrong on that. I have to dive more into Yurei Deco, like deeper into where the story is taking place. So far, this is all I got from both Yurei Deco and what I got from Teppen. So that is the end of this anime, and the last scene of Yurei Deco is the trolley that they were on, or whatever that they were on, exploded, and it indicated that they were both found dead. But I know that they're not dead. It's just that that's how the third episode ends. And probably next week, the next episode is going to be released in Japan, and then it's going to be uploaded on the internet, and then I'm going to be able to see it, purchase it, or however I can watching it online. So, yeah, those were the two animes for the month of July. They were very good. They were very intriguing. I didn't think Yurei Deco was going to be anything important whatsoever. In fact, I was getting pissed off by the first episode. I'm saying, what the hell is this little childish nonsense? I don't care about people having hearts. And how can you rule a society based on empathy towards your piece of garbage neighbors, or empathy towards your messed up relatives, or empathy towards yourself trying to get your lazy ass to do stuff? You know, how is that going to work for anyone? And slowly but surely, I see it's not just you yourself, it's how you build up yourself from your day-to-day activities, how you do certain things, what makes you happy, what makes you feel good. And those emotions that make you feel happy, good, everything else translates onto what you're going to do during your daily life. Because the more you reflect on something, the more you're able to focus on that thing, and it makes you either distract you from doing things positive, or it's the type of distraction you want to do things positive. So Yurei Deco is very interesting, but it's very complicated. I'm not even going to get into that whole hyperverse being meshed within a hyperverse, and for you to jump from one fishbowl into a that's compressed into another fishbowl. That's a whole different ball game right there within that anime. I'm not gonna dive deep into that. I'll leave that for people who want to make documentaries about Yurei Deco in the near future. But this is as far as I'll go with regards to these two animes. I've been speaking for more than an hour on this. Hopefully I don't have to do this video again. But as far as the anime go, I don't see that much complication of Isekai Oji-san, and I don't see that much complication of Lycross Recoil. I don't find those two animes to be as good as Yurei Deco and as good as Teppen. I believe Lycross Recoil is very close and has high potential because its animation is off the charts, as well as how when they pull back on bullets, as well as how when they load bullets, as well as when they're tying their hair with tie nets, and how their hands are moving, how their physical features work, and how their body movement work, and how the body operates when they're in combat, and the angles of camera shots and the transition. So the animation for Lycross Recoil is very good, and the photography as well as the transition of scenes is very good. It's better than that of Teppen. It's better than that of Yurei Deco, as well as some character beats and character moments is better than that of Teppen and better than that of Yurei Deco. But beyond those four things, that's where it ends. Transition, animation, movement of body, and character beats. Those are the only four things that I see that are great about Lycross Recoil. Now you could even argue that there's political intrigue and mystery going on within the anime. Well, I kind of know where that type of logic is going already. So it's not fooling me with regards to this whole secret society or bad guy is present and trying to find out why these people are doing what they're doing, and the people from Lycross Recoil DA being much smarter that they are assuming that they are, and just laying little traps for their enemy who think that the enemy think that they're smarter than DA, but DA is actually smarter than them. You're just letting them fall into their old trap. I kind of already see that coming. So I don't want to watch an anime where I already know, I kind of see where things are going. The only thing that I would say is different about Lycos Recoil that might make it better than Teppen and might make it better than Yurei Deco is the main character. How and why she's so good at handling weapons and dodging bullets. But that's about all that I could find with this anime that is to a complex level that makes it intriguing enough for me to stay on board with Lycos Recoil. But that's it. Just those four things. Maybe there's a fifth thing. But just those four or five things about Lycos Recoil is the only reason that I could see that possibly being better than Yurei Deco and Teppen. But Teppen has more than that. Teppen has character building beats. Teppen has circumstantial beats. Teppen has potential for greater future within their character arcs, as well as the overall animation. Teppen has very complex transition within the animes from scene to scene to scene, and very complex frames of certain animations moving from place to place to place just to tell their different comedic stories. And Teppen has so many characters that each of them are telling different stories from their point of view, and each of those characters have backstories in their lives, so you're telling multiple characters on multiple lives on multiple levels. So from a story point of view, Teppen is far more complex of a story that you literally have to water down Teppen if you're trying to get into each and every one of the characters of those five teams. Where in Lycos Recoil, you just have to water down the main two characters, the primary character and secondary character, and then you could water down DA. But you kind of guess where DA is, and you kind of guess where the secondary girl is. Is the only primary girl, Chisote, or Chizo, you kind of guess where she's going. So that's all I can say about that. I might have butchered her name, but who knows? It's not about Lycos Recoil. It's about Teppen, and it's about Yurei Deco. And I found after I saw the third episode of Lycos Recoil, I was still hooked, and I still want to see where it's going. But as an entertainment factor, from its first hook to its last episode, third episode, Teppen is better. From an entertainment factor, from its first episode to its third episode, Lycos Recoil is not as complicated as Yurei Deco. So I wanted something that was entertaining and complicated at the same time. But I want something that's laid back, that I don't have to think about complicated things at the same time. And Yurei Deco can be something that's very laid back and enjoyable, so you can enjoy the characters without thinking about the complex things. And it could be complex if you wanted to. That's what I said before. Same as Teppen. It could be very laid back and be enjoyable and fun. You could drink a soda and watch it and enjoy the characters and don't have to pay attention to the hidden stuff behind. And then you could dive into the hidden stuff behind if you want to make a documentary about it, or about the characters and their individual backstories and the families they come from, if you want to dive back. And the same you could say for Lycos Recoil is it can be very complex if you want it to be, but I just didn't have the patience to say that Lycos Recoil wasn't predictable. You could say Teppen isn't predictable, and Yurei Deco is not predictable. That is boring watching it from beginning to end. Yurei Deco was boring watching it from beginning to end, or Teppen was boring watching it from beginning to end. That I was more intrigued with watching Lycos Recoil from beginning to end, but that's not true. If you believe that, it's because you were simply watching Lycos Recoil to watch a drama about people who are trying to keep things in balance of a society that's violent. So it is simply going to use violence to kill people from those who are willing to kill others within a violent society. You needed regulators. And that's why it seems complicated, because it's darker anime. But if you're looking at the transition shots, if you're looking at the story beats, you're looking from from where it goes from where it is to its predictability. Teppen is more unpredictable than Lycos recoil, and Yurei Deco is more unpredictable than Lycos recoil. The only part of Lycos recoil that was unpredictable to me is when the character known as Walnut was an actual little girl with it that hide out within a suitcase in order to escape. That's all. Everything else within Lycos recoil I kind of saw coming. I did not see Walnut being alive and being a little girl hiding in the suitcase. So if you do not like those two lists I have right here, Teppen and Yurei Deco, if you don't like this anime, Teppen right here, and if you don't like this anime, Teppen Grand Prix, and if you don't like this anime, Yurei Deco right here, then your only solution, I would say, is to watch Lycos recoil. I would say go for Lycos recoil or go for Isekai Oji-san. Those are the only 4 animes I could possibly recommend to you. I chose Teppen because Teppen is funny, laid back, and it has potential and possibilities. I cannot see Lycos recoil being anything that goes beyond the anime. I cannot see Oji-san being anything that goes beyond the anime. I could see Teppen something that could be a live action show, live television, becoming something that, hell, I could even see people going up on stage acting out roles in a concert, doing comedic things that they discovered in Teppen. I could even see people making jokes that he found out from this anime Teppen. I could see Teppen being a soap opera or a drama. I could see Yurei Deco being a soap opera and a drama, just like I could see Lycos recoil. But I could see Teppen more, and I could see I could see Yurei Deco more being things that you could transition into a live action better than Lycos recoil. Because Lycos recoil is more like a police story, and police stories are obvious and predictable. And unless there's something unpredictable about them, they're things that you could see coming. And there are lots of things within Lycos recoil I saw coming, but in Teppen, there are lots of things I didn't see coming as well. And just like I didn't see certain things coming in Lycos recoil, and there's in Yurei Deco, there's lots of things I didn't see coming as well. So that's my ending for this. I talk way enough. Teppen, my number 1. Lycos recoil, my number 2. And they're both fun. They both have certain comedic elements in them. They're both lighthearted, but they're also both very complex and have very hidden messages within them. Same as Lycos recoil. But I believe both these animes, if they were to transition into reality-based television shows, they would be more successful and they will have longevity more because they have multiple directions that they can go in. Whereas Lycos recoil seem to be more easy to read. So that's it. That's it for July Anime 2020, 2022. Check out Teppen. Check out Lycos. Check out Teppen. Check out Yurei Deco. And if you don't want to check out Teppen or Yurei Deco, the 2 I have on this list, check out Lycos recoil and check out Isekai Oji-san. Isekai Oji-san is Netflix on Netflix now. You might not like it. I didn't like it that much, but maybe again you did. But to be honest with you, I will always put Teppen above every single one of them. If you were to ask me what my number 1 is, it would probably always be Teppen, because Teppen is something anyone can get into, kids, adults, whoever. Lycos recoil is not something you want your kids to watch because it has to do with violence, killing people, blah blah blah. But it's something that teenagers and adults can get into, not kids. Teppen, even kids can watch that stuff. So yeah, I will always put Teppen above everything else. It works. It works as a show. How the comedy works, will they be able to keep up with the comedy? Will the comedy transition to something? Who knows? But Teppen and Yurei Deco, those are my comedy for July 2022.